All right, this is going to be part 2 of our Getting Started with SWA screencast. And this time, again, I'm starting on our Southwestern Vibe page, which if you're on a student laptop, you can click the home button to get to this page. And the link is down here, SWA Connexus. Um, the direct link is southwesternsd.ems.connexus.com. Now, in my first video, I logged in as a parent account. This time I'm going to log in as a student account, and it should be your normal Southwestern School District username and password. So I'm logging in, but you're going to see that once you log in, it looks exactly the same for both parents and students. All right, so once we log in, same thing here. You can go up here to the username icon and you can click on this and you can go in and change your settings. You can update your profile picture. You can change some of your preferences and things. One difference between parents and students is students cannot change your passwords. It's always going to be your school password. Parents can change their password here, but students cannot. All right, so there's that. First thing I do when I log in on a normal day in SWA is I just kind of look at my course progress, and you have 4 course cards here across the top. And your course card will tell you the name of the course, will also tell you what your current grade in the course is. The purple bar here will tell you your progress in the course. So I'm creating this screencast in late May of 2018. So the spring semester is just about over. So thankfully for this student, all of the bars are pretty much filled in. So we've had a successful semester and all of our grades are passing. So that looks awesome. Courses in which the deadline has expired, you'll see a enrollment expired. And that just means that that course deadline is over. If you need more time to complete a course because you had some situation come up during the semester, you'll have to email Mr. Team and myself or one of your teachers and explain the reason, and then we can work on trying to get you approved for an extension for some more time to work on the course. At the bottom here, you'll see like kind of like a Facebook page of updates that will just show you when you completed certain projects, what your scores were, updates that your teachers have made, your grade, that sort of thing. Typically, the first thing that I'll do is I'll go ahead and click on a course and dig in a little bit deeper. Over here on the left-hand side, there might be some announcements from your teacher. There could be a to-do list of projects and things that you have to do. But then you'll see your actual course. And this is a nice way to kind of browse your course. I can see my different units. And then if I click inside of a unit, I can see the lessons that make up the unit. I can see what my scores were on the various lessons. And then each unit typically finishes with a post-test. And I can see my post-test and what my score was for that. Excuse me. So if I click on a lesson, all of the lessons tend to have this same kind of formatting where you have an introduction, a learn and explore, a practice and review, and then an assessment. So the introduction is going to give you the overview of the lesson. You have these little arrows here that you can use to navigate between the different pages. And on your keyboard, if you hold Control key and then the plus, you can zoom in, or Control key and plus to zoom out. You can also zoom in and zoom out with the little magnifying glass icon in Google Chrome. So sometimes it's helpful to kind of fit the lesson to your particular device's screen. Once in a while, this will be zoomed in. You can't even see the button. So it might be helpful to zoom out and then you can see the next button. I also wanted to mention on this introduction that eventually you'll see the objectives of the lesson. And these are really important. You want to make sure that you write these objectives down and then go back and answer them at the end of the lesson to make sure that you understood the main idea. All right, so I'm going to move on to learn and explore. Key vocab words are also important. You should always write those down and make sure that you understand what the word means and what the definition is. Again, here's a specific objective for this section. So they're going to talk about that first main objective. So you want to make sure that you write that down and that you answer that question as you go through the lesson. I tend to prefer to write my notes down on paper. I think writing it out on paper and kind of sketching it and handwriting it helps it to go in your brain a little better than just copying, pasting notes into, say, a Google Doc. But I've seen students be successful with both ways. I just think writing it down on paper kind of forces it through your brain a little bit more than copying and pasting. There's also a built-in note-taking tool here where you can jot notes down. But again, you have to decide if it's, good to type it, if you prefer to write it, or if you're going to copy and paste, that kind of thing. All right, so I'm going to just work through this lesson. These types of things are very important. They're kind of illustrating what some of the different biomes are. You want to make sure that you're familiar with what these are if that's a major part of the lesson. And you usually have to work through all these before you can get the next arrow to move on. Words that are in bold are also very important. You want to make sure that you define those and understand they're bold because they're important. So they're probably going to come up later. These are little checkpoints. Again, this would be something good to answer in your notebook. And then once you think you know the answer, go ahead and click Show Me and see if that's the same thing that you wrote down. And then you'd kind of continue through. The practice and review section lets you interact with the content. So you can go ahead and drag these answers in until you think you have them. And then you can submit and it will tell you which ones you got right and wrong. And then you can try to do a little better job based on that feedback. So there's that. The assessment is how you actually get this score of 80% on the lesson. So as you go through the assessment, you're going to answer questions and get the questions right or wrong. But you can't go back and try again. You just go on to the next question. So we're looking for at least an 80%. If you score less than an 80%, you're going to have to go back through this types of biomes lesson and try it again. These questions do shuffle and the answers shuffle. So we don't want you to try to game the system and just go through and check. You'll find that if you take your time, you take good notes, you can then use your notes as you take this end of lesson quiz, that you should do pretty well going through it. And obviously we want you to learn as much as possible and practice taking good notes and studying those notes. And if you do those two things, earning an 80% on the lesson shouldn't be a problem. Once you've completed the quizzes, you're going to go down here and click Save and Close, and that kind of locks your score in. And you'll be able to see that score over here. Sometimes it takes a minute for that to refresh, or you might have to actually refresh the page. And then the other thing you can do to check your grades is up here, you have a speedometer icon, and you can click on that. And just like in part one, I can see all my target dates to make sure I'm staying on pace, and I can see what my scores were for each assignment. And that's pretty much what you'll do on a daily basis. Last thing we want to make sure we mention for students is just make sure you check your Gmail so that we know and we're communicating by email on a regular basis.